Coach, in your book it says the guy who was dating the woman you divorced was living in your house. Why did you move out of your own house and how long were you paying bills for them?
In your book, you say the guy who was dating the woman you divorced was living in your house. No, he was not living in my house. I assume he's talking about my ex-wife. So I moved down the street. I was living in my best friend's house because I was the one that ended it. I was the one that proposed when I didn't really want to propose. I was just so it's like it was my fuck up. I should have never got married in the first place, and I felt bad. I felt guilty. And we had a dog. We had a German Shepherd, and the dog needed a place to stay, and I was gone all the time during the day. And she had a more normal like 9 to 5 job, and plus had the dog, or we needed the yard for the dog and everything. So I moved out, and I was living with my best friend for I think it was probably close to a year. I think it was. And at some point, she started dating this guy that she got set up with, and I guess he was a dentist or something like that, if I remember right. But she was always staying at his house, and she was like never at home. And I remember, I still had the clicker to the garage. We each had one, and I had a key to the house. I was on good terms with her, but she obviously wasn't over me leaving, and she had probably shared that with him, so he was worried about me coming back, and so he started, talking shit, and I guess he was the one that convinced her to change the locks now. So and she didn't tell me, she didn't call me and let me know this. And I went over to the house one day because all the bills went to the house and I was paying them all. And they had a brand new handle on the front door. I was like, what? And then my key didn't work. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I called my wife, left this message at work, called her cell phone, and she just fucking blew me off. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And I had heard through our mutual friends who had set them up, oh yeah, she's mostly staying because we lived in like Davenport, which is like the south side of Disney, and I was working in downtown Orlando. And the guy she was dating, he lived in Celebration City, the Disney World area, and so that was a little close to where she worked because she worked in downtown at a endodontist office as a dental, I guess, a assistant, assisting the doctors doing the root canals and stuff. And so she was always basically living with him at that point. And so now the locks are changed on my house, and I got to pay the bills because we had credit cards, car payments, everything. This was before online banking, and so I remember looking in the window because our kitchen had a window that you could, you had the garage, you had the kitchen window, and then you had the front door on the left side. And so I looked, and there was just a big giant stack of all the bills. I was like, I needed them to pay them because back then you write a check and you send it out. It's not like online banking where the shit's just automatic. And so I needed to pay the bills because I was buying and flipping properties. I needed to maintain good credit for obviously for both of us. And she just went and changed the locks, didn't tell me, didn't call me back, didn't tell me what was going on. And I'm like, fuck, I got a business to run. And when I heard she had kind of abandoned the house, I was talking to my divorce attorney, and he's like, well, you have just as much right to live in the house as she does. And I was like, well, she's not living there anymore. He's like, well, if she's abandoned the property, go ahead and move in, but obviously don't cause any kind of conflict or anything. And so I called the locksmith, and I remember I had all my clothes stacked up in the back seat of my car, and I saw him. The locksmith pulled up, and he was kind of looking at my car and saw all the shit in there, all my stuff, and because I was gonna move back, I was like, here I'm paying for the house, and she's not even living there. I'm not getting access to my fucking bills, and and so he looked at my driver's license and saw that that's where I lived, and he looked at the lock and saw that it was a brand new lock. So he kind of probably knew that she had changed the locks recently because it was a brand new brass doorknob. And I just told him I think I lost the key or something like that. So he made a key for me, and I got back in, and so I wrote a letter because she wouldn't listen to me. I told her what I was doing and that I had moved back in the house because she had abandoned it, and because I was paying the bills, and my goal was to do some repairs and things to the house to get it ready to sell because I wanted to obviously we're going to sell it. And I dropped it off at her doctor's office, so she knew what was going on. And and then probably a couple of months after that, I think her father reached out to me. I had a good relationship with her dad, and I told him what was going on. I was like, yeah, she's living with her new boyfriend, and it's like I've been sleeping on a 4-inch fucking foam mattress for the last year, and I got my clothes in piles. Most of my personal possessions are in the house, and she's never here, and she's living with her boyfriend, and it's like, and I need to get the house ready so we can sell it. The pool deck needed to be pressure cleaned, all the screen enclosure needed to be pressure cleaned. Because after the house was about 2 years old at that point, there were like spider webs and stuff like that. There was like a wetlands preserve, behind the development where we were, and so you get a lot of bugs and shit in there. So I cleaned the house, I did the repairs, remulched the flower beds and stuff like that, put signs up, and within about, I think it was like 3, 4 weeks, I got somebody that called me and we did a lease purchase on it. So I got I don't know, it was like $25,000, which was down payment money and first, last, and security and rent. And so I got a cashier's check made out to her name, and then I went and I dropped that off to let her know that I had sold the house, and or I got a buyer that was going to do a lease purchase for about 2 years before they could clean their credit up and buy it. And here's your cashier's check for your half of it, and which she was really excited about. So she went and hired her, or used that to pay her divorce attorney, and then like a week or a couple weeks later, I was there, and then her and her boyfriend came over. I met him. It was very cordial, very nice, because we were moving all our shit out so the new people could move in. So that was kind of the whole. That's a lot more detail in the story that you wanted to learn, but it was my idea to leave. But no, he was not living in my house. I'm sure he was over there at times, but because his office was closer to where he lived, and where he lived was closer to where she worked, it was better for both of them. But she was just never there. That's why I moved back in.
I think he also got confused because wasn't the guy that crashed your car staying with you, and didn't he ask out your wife? They didn't date, but he asked her out or something like that.
Well, he had invited her to dinner, and they went to dinner one night, and towards the end, he's like, "So, you want to fuck or what?" She told me about that, and I was like, "Well, that's great. That's just swell. My best friend.
Yeah.
What a good guy." But the wrecking the Lotus came a couple years after that.
Oh, so you were still friends with him even
This was
after that?
before he wrecked the Lotus. Well, at that point, it's like I set her up with a friend of mine that I used to work with at Syntax Rooney, and
Yeah.
he hooked up with her in our house and in our bed that we used to share together, and it's like I felt guilty because I left her. I wanted her to be happy, so
Oh, yeah.
I didn't care. I just wanted her to be happy. And then a few years after that, she dated one of my good friends from high school. We dated for like 2, 3 years, and we all, myself, Sean, Dr. Mike's brother, her, and our other friend. We went to what was it, Solid Gold or something, or Pure Platinum, I think it was, because I hadn't seen her in several years, and he had been keeping from me that he'd been dating her for like a year because he was worried I'd get mad and want to beat his ass or something. And when Sean told me that, he's like, "Hey, I got something to tell you. So and so's been, dating, your ex for the last year." And I was like, "Why didn't he tell me?" Because he's worried you'd be mad. I was like, "Why would you be mad? I left her." I was like, "I love both of them. I want them to be happy. Like, we should all get together." And he was like, "Great," because he really wants to see you, and so does your ex. I was like, "Cool." So we went to the titty bar, and then afterwards we went to Denny's like we all used to do at like 2 in the morning, in high school after parties or whatever.
Hey Corey, how did you meet your former Brazilian girlfriend?
She started watching my videos and tracked me down. She really loved that I was brutally honest and I spoke my mind, and because this is one of those women that, like, wherever she goes, she parts the fucking Red Seas. It's just like, when I take the little puppies out, it's like being with the Pope or something. It just, people are like, "Oh." So, what she was saying that she liked about me is she could tell I was brutally honest, and I told it like it was, and because she was like, "Most men are pussies." She would say it like that. And it's like I saw the effect. It's just, man, she made every guy just like fall apart. They became nervous. They would shake, and they were hypnotized by her boobs. They would just look.
Boobs.
We'd be talking to them, and they're just because when she talked and she laughed, they would like jiggle, and she always kind of wore a little bit of a low cut thing, so you could see some of the cleavage. And her body was just beautifully shaped. It was just such a beautiful. It was
I didn't know she
amazing,
was a fan.
huh?
I didn't know she was a subscriber.